Yeah, so today I want to walk you through my process of looking at businesses. I'm going to show you biz by sell. We're going to go through kind of the spreadsheet and just kind of the way that I view it. And so to start, I think most of you probably know me, but if you don't, or you're not sure, I'm going to kind of go over my resume real quick and walk through kind of some of the things that I've done. So our biggest business is Midas. I own 36 locations as of today. We do over $50 million a year, primarily in the Philadelphia and New Jersey markets. I am, as of last year, in a brand called Waterloo Turf, which installs artificial turf. I'm a franchisee in Houston. We just bought a little bit more in Dallas. I'm also an investor and a board member of like the franchisor. But really excited by that. I just recorded a video last week with my partner in Houston, and it's going to be a ton of fun to show. Anyway, so awesome business. I recently became an investor in a brand called Frio's Pops. This is a modern ice cream truck, basically trying to take over Kona Ice as the best mobile dessert brand in the country. I'm an investor in that, and awesome brand. I'm also a partner, so I invest with some franchisees. So I'm like looking at deals all the time where I'll find someone who's like a really good operator, and we'll partner with them on it. And so I have a deal like that in senior care, and so really familiar with that business. I have another one that's commercial kitchen, so they like B2B service recurring revenue, pretty cool. And just recently junk removal. And so anyway, I look at a lot of different businesses, and I want to show you kind of my process to do this. And so what I'm going to do is a couple things. If there's any brands or like business ideas that you would want me to do, just like drop them in the comments, and we will go through it. And I kind of got the sheet that I'm going to walk through. So I'm going to find some businesses. I'm going to kind of go through some of the numbers and the way that I view it, some of the pros and cons, how I'd scale it, and just trying to give you an idea of kind of like at least my perspective on if I think it would be a good deal or not. But before we get into that, I want to show you one other thing, and it's this thing called the deal box. And I think it's really important when you're looking at a business to really have a clear like box, like you're a batter trying to go hit a ball, of what are you going to swing at? Like what are the things that really you're going to be excited about versus what are the things that like are outside your box and you're totally blind to them. And so I've become better as an operator for the businesses that I buy in, or even the ones that I want to partner in, based on this deal box. And so I'm going to walk over this pretty quick, and then we'll get into like diving into some of these. But you want to look at the business through the lens based on your situation. And so if you're looking to buy your first business, like the stuff that we're going to go over here is so critical, because I think this is why a lot of people get stuck, and a lot of people that and I have a team that helps people buy franchises, and this is like the first thing that I recommend them doing, is because they're open to anything, right? And you could and if you're open to anything, it's really hard to get clear on what you want, and then like you're chasing all these rabbits and going down all these things, and it's you're not going to get anywhere. And so first thing is budget. So like how much money do you have to invest? And so what you want to look at is both cash, like not really net worth, that doesn't matter as much, but like from a cash perspective, what are you willing to put into the business? And be honest that there's risk that you lose it, right? And so you don't want to put in any more that you can afford to not see back for a while. How much you're willing to borrow. Some people are okay taking debt on. There's other people that are like, hey, Dave Ramsey, I'm not going to take anything. If you do decide to take debt, there's a lot of different ways you can do it. SBA, seller financing, personal loans, HELOCs, 401k, like leveraging all that stuff. So ultimately total budget, understanding what your monthly nut is and how many months of runway. Because a lot of times if you're buying these new businesses or even launching one from scratch, a lot of times these things take time to ramp up, and you have to be okay in some of these in like not making money for a little while. And like that is a reality for many business owners, even ones that are buying existing businesses with cash flow. Like it's possible that you could get in there and the business has a bunch of things that you didn't, deferred expenses and equipment that breaks, and like you end up taking all the money that you thought you were going to distribute out and like put it back into the business because you need to like ramp it up. And so just be aware that like, you should definitely have a good runway. And if not, that's where you kind of look into lowering expenses or finding a different opportunity. Time inventory, huge one. Like we only have so many hours in a day, right? And so how many hours can you like realistically work if you're going full time to the thing, better. That's like the best way to do it. Or if it's like me and it's like, all right, I'm gonna add this to my team. Then it's like, how much does this spread my team in? And so, even in Midas, like we have 36 locations. I'm not buying a single location an hour and a half away, because I know from my team's perspective, it would spread my guy really thin. And that'd be difficult unless we had this bigger plan. And so I'm like pretty conscientious of that. And then also understanding what the, oh no, I got that later, another part of the time. And then like, are multiple people going to be involved in this business? So maybe it's you and your wife, or you and your husband, and like together you're gonna tag team and handle it. And just understanding, is this like a side hustle that you're just doing on the nights and weekends and you're making a little bit of cash, or is this like, hey, we're going all in, I'm quitting my job, and like we got to burn the boats here. Then it's like skills and strength. So like I want to get into a business that matches my skills and strength, and all businesses are not the same. And so you really want to kind of get into, are you a salesperson or a systems person? Those are like the two big buckets. Like if you're a salesperson, you could do really, really well in a business like this, the artificial turf business. Like we are selling $10,000 jobs, 20, 30. I mean, my partner sold a $70,000 job. We're working on a $2 million estimate right now that I think we're going to get. But it's because he's really good. He's really good at sales, right? But if you're like a systems person and you're like, hey, I don't really like, whatever, trying to sell in home and overcoming the objections and dealing with financing and all this stuff, you probably not that type of business. You'd probably be better suited, even in something that's like this B2B kitchen services. Like there is no sales. It's like an operational heavy business, managing routes and equipment and like labor and stuff. So you understand what are your talents, and then finding a business that matches that versus trying to like get into something that you're not gonna be very good at. Risk tolerance. If you lost this money, how would it change your life? Do you have a fallback plan? Can you sleep at night with debt? All the things that like you become a business owner, or like even if it's me and I'm saying, hey, do I want to go and spend millions of dollars to buy another market and take on, triple the amount of debt that I have today? I don't know. Like, I don't know if I'm going to do that at the point that I'm at now. And so just understanding your risk tolerance, even for me, I was way more, open to risk earlier on, but then as you get bigger, it lowers it. And then lifestyle. So like, I think this is like a big one that a lot of people underestimate, which is like, what do you think your life is going to look like after buying this business or getting involved in this business? And that it's possible that business requires nights and weekends in terms of like, or that this kitchen business, like they literally service people in the middle of the night. And as the owner, like if there's a problem, they're going to call you at 4 a.m. or at midnight. And until you build that layer of management, you got to be okay with that. Seasonal business, like some seasonal businesses are great. People love it because they just like get the summers off. They go to Florida, whatever. But then other people like it would drive them crazy. So anyway, that's this is the deal inbox. I'm working on getting like a link here so I can send this guys to you. But that's where we're going. All right, cool. Let's get into some of the questions. So home service businesses, parts stores, both good ones. I'm going to start with one that is, let's see, we can start with probably this. So this one. So when I'm going through these, there's a couple things that I'm going to look at. One is, obviously the asking price. So let's just start going into this thing. So it's a senior care, personal home care business. So this is a business that I'm in this passively as an investor. And we're kind of going into it. So they're asking $525. So what I'm going to do here is I'm just going to put this into my sheet. So we got the senior care business asking $525. Then cash flow $130, and they say revenue is $400,000. Oops, multiple. So there's a couple things we're looking at. One is the multiple. So you take the price and you divide it by. So they're asking a 4 times multiple, which is really high. Most small businesses are going to, at this volume, are going to trade for like 2.5, 3. So like that's like immediately a red flag. They're doing $400,000 in revenue. So 400,000. They say they established in 1984. Home license, 24 residents. So like read through it. There's a home that has main house. So it sounds like. Okay, so it sounds like for this one, it looks like it includes a property. So that changes it, right? Because if you were just buying the business at a 4 times multiple is a crazy number to think about. That's like way too high. Now, if they're saying that, okay, the real estate's included in the asking price, that makes it more tolerable. The other thing I would want to look at all these is understanding or trying to figure out what the margins are, because I think a lot of sellers inflate how much money they're really making. And so, they're saying that they net 33%. Now, in a traditional home care business, at least in ours, we're at like 15%, maybe 20 if it's like if it's not a franchise, but something in that like 10, 12, 15, something in that range, depending on what it is. So you start looking at enough of these, you'll start to understand like what's a reasonable margin. And a lot of times I think they're really inflated. Now this one, because it includes the property, maybe that their margins could be a little bit better. That's something that you'd really want to get into. And then I'll show you this. So many of you know this, but if you don't, if you want to figure out what like your cash flow would be, there's a simple formula. So we would say, how much money do we want to put down? So let's say we could go and buy this thing and we could put 10% down. And then the term is like how many years. So, it's possible that on this business, we could go to a bank and try to say it's really a real estate purchase. And with banks, you're going to get a longer term and a better rate if it's real estate versus a business. And so when we're trying to buy, if we're buying an independent shop or like a Midas shop that's real estate and the business, we will work with the seller to split so that we put more value on the real estate and then less on the business, and which then can give us more, potentially moves us into like a real estate loan, not a business loan, which gives us better terms. And so let's say we could get like better terms, and maybe we could get like I'll put a 10-year term, which is probably a little bit on the shorter side for real estate, but then longer on the real estate for a business. So in the rate, so like what the rates are going to be, I don't know, probably about 8% right now. And so there's this payment calculator, so it's PMT. So if you take this payment and then you just take your rate, you divide it by 12, you put your number of years, you times by 12, and then you get your loan payment, or a loan amount, which is just like your total asking price minus your down payment. And you just got to make it negative. And anyway, so what this tells us is that our payment would be $5,700 a month. And so then we can get the annual. And so then we can come up with the net to say they claim this thing's making $130,000. We'd have annual debt payments, assuming nothing else happens. We'd be making $61,000. And so not like, whatever. It is what it is. If you thought like, hey, what's my ROI? Assuming this was like everything went perfect. If you had to put 52K down and you made, the other way around. If you made, this is right. If you made 61,000, you had to put 52. You'd be 100% of your money back in the first year. So from a financial investment standpoint, pretty good. That's generally our target when we do these deals. When we're buying stores, we're looking for 100% ROI. And now a lot of that is like because we're using debt, and so we'll buy it. We'll put $50,000 down, $100,000 down, and we're trying to make back $50,000 to $100,000 like minimum in the first 12 months. A lot of times we can get better than that, but you compare that to other things you're going to do. It's pretty good. One of the things you look for is like, is there seller financing? In this case, they did not say they had any, and then I go through like what are the pros and cons, and so. You think through, all right, if I'm looking at a senior care business and I think through my deal box, so back to this thing, let's say budget's totally fine. Like, yeah, I got $50,000. I'm good with that. Is this going to be something that replaces my job, or do I have to get right away? Now, the thing's not making that much money, right? It's really, $60,000, you're probably not going to replace your income on that. And so you would want to go into like probably not enough cash flow to replace income. Now, you would want to dive into figuring out, in this one specifically, are we, maxing out rooms? So this is like, they probably have like 8 to 10 rooms or something like that. And they like rent it by the room, and it's possible, okay, it's 24 residents. And so you would want to dive into numbers and to figure out like, how many, what's the rent roll, how many people are there. I'd also look at, comparing the price, like what are they currently charging? Can I raise prices is really the question. Whoops. Can I raise prices? I'd also look at the duplicating, right? And so could I, if I get into this business and let's say I like the thing because it's real estate focused, I don't need in traditional in-home care, it's 1-to-1. You have one person you're paying $18 an hour and you have a client that's paying $35 an hour and your money's in the margin. In this business, because it's a home, it's possible on the ratios you may have, I don't know what they are, so don't hold me to this, but it's possible you might need, it could be like a 1-to-6 or something like that. So, if there's 24 people, you may need 4 people, but you're paying those 4 people the same rates, like $18 an hour or whatever it is. But you're collecting 6 times more per hour, of payroll than on a 1-to-1. And so you should have higher margins versus traditional care. It also should be easier to hire caregivers because a lot of caregivers in the current model or the personal care model, they kind of have this staggered schedule where they're going from place to place to place. And in a home care model like this one, they just show up to the home every day. It would be a lot more consistent work, and the consistency would make it easier to hire them. On the liability, obviously, you have old people in the home, somebody gets hurt, somebody doesn't follow, they're not paying attention, there's negligence. There's obviously a lot of liability in it. People are going to die in the home potentially, we've had that happen. And so there's a lot of that that just have to be careful of. Obviously, you're dealing with more a fragile clientele. But kind of thing though, if you could get in for not a lot of money, $50,000 down, and you realize the numbers are good, you do some research, you're like, hey, they aren't they're low on prices. We could do more marketing to be able to fill more rooms. And then it's how do I scale this? It's copy and paste. And so then it's okay, this thing's working really well at this single location. How do I go and find other facilities like this one, or potentially build them? And even this one now, it's 1.75 acres. It's a private wooded lot. They have a main house. And then they have some exterior ones. It's possible even on this existing plot of land, you could build an additional home to house more residents. And so that would be something that I would dive into to figure out what that would cost. And then otherwise you're finding other homes and buying them. The people that I know who do this model pretty well is eventually you have a manager, right? And that home manager is the one that oversees, the house. And then you would the similar person, right, could potentially oversee 2 homes. And so as you start to scale it, you start to get better and better margins. And so anyhow, that's kind of how I would approach this one, is go through it, figure out the cash flow, really kind of dive in to think, all right, on a first principles, how does this thing make money, and understanding what's the competition. And then really the labor is a big part of a lot of these businesses is, how easy it is to hire people. So anyway, cool. I'm gonna move on to the next one. But yeah, drop in the comments if you have anyone. Said parts stores or home services business. Yeah, I'll try to do a, Jonathan, let me try to do a parts business. I know a good bit about that too. So let's see. So back to search. And all right, let's see. Get out of here. Yeah, parts business. So yeah, many years ago, I was in a franchise, 1-800-Radiator, it's called, and it was a B2B parts, automotive parts warehouse business, and I'll tell you all about it. But it was terrible. It was a terrible business for me, and all right, cool. So let me see. I bet I could find one of them. Auto parts business. And look at this one, 3.3 auto parts and salvage yard. All right, let's do this one. They don't give us a cash flow though. So some of these, they require a lot of blah blah blah. Okay, I mean, I don't have a lot of data on this one, but just to talk about it and how I would like approach it. And so, yeah, 3.3 is, you know, let's just like go through one of these. Let's just do junkyard. I kind of like the idea of owning a junkyard, to be totally honest. I think it'd be a pretty good business to be in. Stuff always breaks. And auto parts. All right, let's just get into this thing. Boom, boom, boom. Okay. So 3.3. They don't have the asking. I probably need to build out something when I'm working through this, but so because they got the real estate valued separately, so they're saying $2 million for the real estate. So they're saying it's 1.3 for the business. Let's see, business is 1.3, and then the real estate would be separate. Okay. Cool. Now, initial thoughts, right? As I start to go through this is you get the address, the real estate itself. It's possible, some of these are in like developing areas, and it's like entirely possible that real estate is like on the verge of an area that has like a ton of development around it. And while like maybe the real estate is overvalued for what it is as a junkyard, it's possible that, hey, over the next 10 years, like, developers are coming in and, a best and higher use of a lot is building, multifamily apartment buildings or whatever. And, that the real estate could appreciate at a faster rate. So that would be, anytime there's real estate involved, that would be like the number one thing you're going to be looking at is the real estate itself valuable? Is it something that I would want to own in 10 years from now? And is there always going to be a use for it? And so I would always look at that. It's Miami, so yeah, totally possible. And, cool. So then we go through, right? So it's auto parts business, salvage yard, properties, urban infill location, competitive advantage, just difficulty due to zoning restrictions, environmental barrier. Oh, so it's in Tampa. It's not in Miami. And so, yeah, totally. So the real estate may be good if it is in an urban area and less competition. So here we go. So they say they got $1 million of inventory. So we'd work that into our thing, furnitures and equipment. So all their 150. Employees 4-time, owner 50 hours a week. So that's good. So like if you were thinking through this like as your, I wish we had the cash flow. You'd have to fill it all, get it. But as we think through like this deal, the deal like box here, if you're planning to replace your income, then you really want to understand what is the owner's role. And so in this case, they're telling us that the owner's working 45 hours a week. And if you, like, you should be not expected, but like you should plan that, hey, I'm going to have to go, I buy this thing, I'm going to have to go in there and work this thing, 45 hours a week or more. Because if not, if you say, hey, I want to like build this thing along my job, or if I were to buy it, right? And because I'm not going to go do it, but like I would hire a manager, like I'd have to work in the salary of that manager to say, well, and it's like, what is a good person going to cost? And so in a business that's doing $900,000 in revenue, that's not a ton of revenue for like a parts business, just in general, because they're going to have, they have to buy these cars, and then they're going to have people that dismantle them. They're going to have tons of insurance because you're dealing with all this heavy equipment, and the owner's working. So like I would guess this thing's probably making $150,000 a year, just based off rough math, knowing all the things that they're gonna have to do. And so if you said, hey, I'm gonna buy this thing and I'm gonna have an owner that gets into it, so it's like kind of getting into this. So owner 45 hours, either you're gonna have to like, take that job or replace. Again, liability. You're dealing with heavy equipment. You're dealing with parts and cars. A lot of auto salvage places have a high thing of theft because they deal with a ton of cash, and because you generally, some of the yards there's no credit cards, so they're doing millions of dollars. Like it's entirely possible they're doing over $1 million and it's 100% like paper cash, and so. Because they don't want like chargebacks and all this stuff. And so there's people who go and steal catalytic converters. They take those to junkyards and sell them and get the cash, right? And so then the people who are thieves know that these places carry a lot of cash. And so generally, they could potentially be targets. And so I would definitely that would be like one of the cons, or you'd make sure you have like really good systems in place in order to like protect yourself, your people, also like from potential employees that you hire that know you carry a significant amount of cash. So that'd be like the one thing. And probably, the owner or manager, like you would really have to have tight controls there. Pros, right? It's never going away. Like there's always going to be junkyard cars, and it's going to be a forever business. Even if robots came and like they're fixing all the cars and stuff, you still need a salvage yard. You still need the parts. So I think that's like pretty good. I think the real estate could grow, right? Like that's a question in value. And overall, it's a relatively simple business in terms of having your ability to it's inventory, right? It's inventory heavy, but you're not fixing cars. You're really buying junk cars and breaking them apart. Now, how I'd scale it if I got into one of these, I think the big one is relationships with shops. And so I would build like the B2B or sales. Like I would do this part probably, because you go around, there's all these shops in the area, and like, they kind of buy from, they usually have a first call. And if they don't have it, then they kind of go down the list. And, the more you can build those relationships, the more that you're that first call. I would also kind of, it would depend on, how sophisticated their software is, but some of them I have seen have very sophisticated software to tag everything, and like it's like an AI driven or whatever modern system. And there's others that are, you could tell they're like old school paper driven. And so having like, I would look for the opportunities for an inventory management and scalability. Some of them, it's this question of, can you sell online? I know similarly, some of them, when they register the parts into inventory, they're able to then automatically list it on like eBay and all the other sites. And so then, and they join like this network of other junkyards to source parts from each other. And so all depends on their existing and how technologically the existing are, but could be opportunities to be able to scale your business that way. Similarly, now we don't really have some of the cash flow, so somewhat hard to do there. This one, and we could do some rough numbers here though. If you're saying a lot of it's real estate, you could probably get the longer terms, something in that like I'm gonna put them here, by the way. Oh, if anybody knows too, by the way, like what they think this junkyard's making at $1 million in revenue, let me know in the comments. But let's say it was making 20%, which I think is a little generous, and you had to put 10% down, and you got a 20-year term, which is pretty typical for real estate. And maybe you could get a 7% on it, on a rate, because it's real estate backed and it's valuable. Your payment would be $23,000 a month, $276,000 a year. So you'd be at negative $84,000 right now, based on what they're asking, assuming a 20% net margin. Now maybe it's higher, maybe it's a 25% net margin, which I don't know. My opinion from whatever, maybe it's more. And if it's more, I would like to get into this business. And we're still losing $36,000. So like, that's why this is so important to run these numbers and have like a quick system like this. So I can immediately tell you, like, this thing is upside down, and most likely because they are overvaluing the real estate, and that's what you're really buying. But then you really got to grow the sales to even cover the nut, which makes it even harder to get a loan on this thing. And, or you have to put significant more money down. 20% down, we're still losing money in it. So anyway, probably not currently priced yet. So, oh my God, I had that comment thing the whole time. Sorry guys. All right. What do we got? I don't know. Let's see. I'm going to put in Zeke. Let's see. And by the way, if there's any other brands you want me to look at, or you have comments or anything you guys are looking at, happy to go into it. So looking into franchise-based lawn care, what they know is a good investment. They don't charge a royalty, flat $1,600 a month. What's up, Bo? Augusta Lawn Care, been in business 4 years, grosses 300K. Okay, cool. Let's see if we can find like a similar one, and that'd be a lot of fun. All right, let's see. So if you're looking here for something specific, I got rid of all locations, and I would just say like lawn care, and let's go. You said it was Augusta. Sometimes like if it's a franchise, sometimes you can put the like actual thing in here, like Augusta Lawn Care. It's probably not going to have any. Yeah, it doesn't have any. But I kind of find that sometimes it's interesting because then maybe like if I was looking, we have this thing called, Rita's around us, Rita's Water Ice. And it can, not a ton. Sometimes you can find a bunch of other listings. And so if you're trying to like put together a pro forma to think like how much money does this thing make, you can put in the brand name and go from here. So like Subway, right? Of course, there's a lot of Subways for sale, but you could go into here and you could say, hey, here I got a Subway, I got gross revenue, I got a cash flow number, right? It's less than 10%. You can get like a rough idea of all these numbers. Then you can go into this one. You can do the same thing. You can go into this one. So all of a sudden now you've got like 6 or 7 different listings. Now, granted, they're all over the country, but then you can put them all together and have an idea of like, all right, does this sales make sense? Does this volume make sense? Does this margins, the asking price and all that stuff? And so anyway, that's kind of what I'm doing. So we can't find it there in terms of, your Augusta business, but yeah, I would think on lawn care. So like kind of how I would, if I was looking about the lawn care business, let me just like lawn care. Let me just see what do they actually do. So I have an idea. Augusta Lawn Care, yard mowing. So it's okay. So it's landscaping, mowing, hardscaping, lawn care. Property clamps. Okay. Yeah. So a couple things. One is it's always a question of like, do you need a franchise is like the first thing when I'm looking at these. It's like, what's the advantage that I can get in this business that I can't get in any others? And so even for this, so if they're charging $1,600 a month in royalty, and if like, hey, that's like the charge, it's like, what am I getting additional that I couldn't get if I just went out and found another like lawn care business for sale, and saying, okay, hey, I can get into this thing, right? And I don't know what you're potentially charging or what they're charging, but starting from like a basis of what I would compare is like, if I did this independently, how much money do I think I can make? Looking at the revenues and the margins, and all the information that we can kind of derive from these listings. And then honestly, like putting in the contact form, signing the NDAs, like getting all the other stuff, I do that too. And then compare that to what it would look like for the franchise. Now, I don't know if I would do a lawn care business, to be totally honest. I think a lot of people, I think one of the biggest advantages of a franchise is the marketing side of it. Like it's digital marketing. It's like the brand name. There is a community. Like, hey, we get together, we share ideas, we share best practices, opportunities for acquisition growth, and all that. But like lawn care is a pretty low barrier to entry, and I think you're going to find there's probably a lot of existing accounts. I think people are really loyal. Like I'm pretty loyal to the guys that mow my yard. They've mowed my yard since I don't know, 6 years maybe. Even someone knocked on my door yesterday, nice young kid, wanted to know if I wanted to buy, but like, I'm happy with my guys. Like, I have no real reason to change. And so I think that would be the challenge in a lot of lawn care businesses is like, people are just generally somewhat loyal unless it's a big problem. And I don't think that like, if I got dished up some digital marketing ad on my phone for some like fancy lawn care company, I'm just going to ignore it. My guy would have to like totally quit. And then I'd probably just like go into the neighborhood and find out who's doing my other neighbor's yard and just have them do mine. So that would be my concern with that is I think your competitive moat is going to be pretty low compared to some other options that, could just be like better for the franchise. So But cool, great question. Good luck. Happy to chat more on that one too, if you'd like. So yeah, any other ones you guys want me to chat about or look at, put them in here. Let's do this one. Vending machine business. Okay, yeah, we can do that real quick. Just put that in the chat here. Let's see. Dude, I'm still so cool. Davies, a vending machine. Yeah. Couple things. There's a ton on Biz by Sell. So I think, oh my God, I think there's you could definitely put a good, model together. So let's just let's go through, let's just go duplicate one of these. All right. Vending machines and get rid of my stuff here. Real estate cash flow, multiple, gross revenue. Okay. Eight. Yeah. While I'm working on this. Yeah, Bo, what's up? So my wife and I just purchased a lawn care from another person. We were able to roll all their customers into ours. Yeah, I think that's how you would scale the lawn care company, exactly like that. So you would have your independent company. You would go and find another guy. You would buy his Rolodex. Maybe you don't even want his equipment, and then you all of a sudden you just get a note in the mail saying, "Hey, I'm now servicing, whatever SNR landscaping stuff," and so. I think it's a really good way that you could roll up lawn care companies as you go and you find all these guys that built small routes of, whatever number of customers, and then you just start rolling them up. But you could do that as an independent. I don't think it's worth paying franchise fees to do that. And then you would also have the issue if you said, hey, I really want to do this roll-up strategy of lawn care companies, then if you buy a franchise, you have a territory, and it's possible that you could find a deal that's in your neighbor's territory, or it's just outside of your territory and your brand saying, well, if you want to buy that or services accounts, then you need to pay us, another territory fee and all this shit. And so all of a sudden now you're being restrictive by it. And I don't because that is the way that I would do it. I would roll them up and I would layer AI, layer sales. I'd upsell them on whatever. You build the tree side, you build the chemical sides, all the other things. So, and cool. So let's do, vending machines. Let's get into that idea here. So let's see, vending machine. So there's a million vending machines to buy. It's a very popular. Where are we at? There's my Popeyes. Okay, so let's see if I can find something in Pennsylvania. So obviously you're looking through this. This is some sort of not franchise, but licensing deal where you're buying a machine for $30,000 a month, and they're claiming you can make $4,500 putting this thing in prime spots. And so, funny enough, I actually saw a Pokemon card vending machine at my local mall the other day. My kids like Pokemon. Luckily, they didn't see it, but. So that would be as I would think through vending machines, there's a couple things I'd think through. Number one is, are we buying existing routes that we just have to service, or are we looking for something like novel, right? I think the low margin stuff is going to be your the candy and soda, which is pretty popular, right? I think a lot of times when we go through these and we find a vending machine business, like maybe this one here, let's use this one as an example. So it's vending business, semi-absentee, scalable. So 275 is the gross revenue. They're asking 168.50, and the cash flow is 142. They claim it's 142. All right. So first red flag here is they're claiming they make a 52% net margin, which in the vending machine business, at least, before I jump to a conclusion here. So what do they sell? So they're snacks and beverages, right? So it's traditional, just like junk. And They support credit card payments, which I know charge a lot more than like whatever, you got like credit card fees and stuff and monthly like internet connections and blah, blah, blah. Okay. And there's no other information. So so I had vending machines for a while, so like I know roughly about this, but most of the time their margin on the goods themselves are roughly 50%. So they're buying things for 50 cents and they're selling for $1. So their gross profit is normally around 50%. And so if they're saying off the bat that their net margin is 50%, like after all the expenses, they're like, that is not accurate. There's no way that they could be making that much. And so you would, this is where you would dive in to figure out, okay, where are they lying? Is it the sales or the cash flow? It's possible that the cash flow, quote unquote, is actually just the gross profit. So the sales minus like just buying the candy and stuff from Costco. But you're going to have all these other expenses. You're going to have, credit card swipes. You're going to have credit card connection fees. From what I remembered, it was like $100 a month a machine or something in that range. Like it's not cheap. Maybe that's a little bit more. You're going to have insurance. You're going to need a vehicle to drive. You're going to have insurance. You're going to have fuel. You're going to have, lots of other ones that are going to eat into your numbers there. And then if you really wanted to scale this thing, you're going to have employees, right? Like you're going to have to pay somebody to go around and service the machines unless you want to do it like every 2 weeks. And so, and the reality is that this thing is probably making something. It's probably making like 25% is my guess from what I've done or know about. And then same thing. All right. So how much money do we, from like our cash flow thing here, we think if we think we can put 10% down, your term would be much lower on something like this. It'd probably be 5 years. Your rates are probably going to be higher because from a bank's perspective, lending on a bunch of like old vending machines is more of a risk. And so they're going to give you a lower term and a higher rate. Payment 3,100, your annualized 37,000, and so your net, which would just be like your assumed cash flow here minus your thing, would be $30,000 a year, which is a good like ROI from a percentage standpoint. But it's this we take dollars to the bank, and so that's what matters more, and knowing how much time you have to put into the business. And so if you go back to like this deal box thing I was talking about in the beginning, so it's like, yeah, low cash, pretty good. Time inventory, maybe it's a couple hours a week, not that bad, but not going to replace my job. It's just like something alongside. Then the question becomes, how do you scale it? And how you really scale it, right, is you acquire more routes because there's lots of these for sale. So that's one of the ways. You take all your money and you put as down payments to buy more. You do outbounds. You find you would have to go out and place it in new locations. I think this is where a lot of people that maybe struggle a little bit or think it's easier than it is, which is you got to make a lot of phone calls and you got to like knock on doors and try to get into these high traffic places that don't have a vending machine now, but one would thrive there. And like, office buildings, fitness centers, schools, apartment complexes, a lot of them have one already. And so you have to like find a way to be better than them. Like they suck and don't service it well. And like you could replace them, or you're convincing them to put it in. Many of them, the ones that are savvy, do rev share. And so, some of them might have like a 10% rev share. And so off the top, 10% of your revenue is going to your like where you place the things for that account. And so you'd like want to understand what that number would be. And then ultimately, the other way to scale it is possible you get into these novel ideas, right? You get into something new that's not low margin candy, but that is Pokemon cards. That is, there's a guy on Twitter who's franchising vending machines in bars. And so they sell like things people would buy in bars. So like vape stuff, like condoms and like, I don't know, like random stuff that drunk people would buy. And he does really well. Like margins are awesome. And it's it appears to be a good business. But then like, that's like, I don't know, that's your business. Like that's what you're doing. Right. And you got to be like cool with all that. So I don't know. I think they are potentially a good way of like, hey, I'm going to like get my foot in the door. I think for somebody who's looking for kind of like a low commitment, low cash, also low upside, like I think it is a tough business if you really wanted to kind of scale it. And so I would just be aware of that. And cool. All right, let me see my other comments here. Do I only buy franchises? No, but currently all my money is I'm a franchisee, or as I was saying earlier, I'm also an investor in multiple brands, not just Midas is my biggest thing. I'm also a partner and investor at a franchisor level of a brand called Waterloo Turf. So we sell artificial turf, sell and install artificial turf. A mobile ice cream truck that I think can be bigger than Kona Ice, which is the largest one. I think we could grow this business 18 times bigger than it is today. I'm also in a senior care business, commercial services, and junk removal as an investor, more in those than an active person. And so, yeah, but personally, I'm only operating franchises. But this guy, company I work with recently sold their vending machine portion of the business for multiple millions. Yeah, I bet that was a huge business. Specialized in stocking office snack rooms. Yeah, the other part though, I guess I didn't mention on what are they called? They call them like I don't know. It's vending cafes or something. So the ones that I think do really well are they do these. Yeah, here we go. This is what it looks like. These businesses. So they go in an office. It's not just like a single junk vending machine. They put in. Oh yeah, you guys probably can't see this thing that well. They basically build out this whole cafe, and so then it's like touchless. So they go with a credit card, and they're buying like snacks, and some of them even do like fresh food. So they'll get food made by a local like restaurant or whatever, and they're putting like fresh hoagies and stuff in here. I think these can do really well, but you're at a whole nother level of the game, because then you got to go and find these offices and get these things built out and do that. But I would guess that is where the money's made. All right, some other comments. And by the way, if there's any other ones that you have businesses you want to break down, or put them in the comments here. What do you think about tech structures for services for events being possible? I mean, to be totally honest, I have no idea. is the idea. I think it comes back down to just like, oh crap, my Google. Having some slow internet. Here we go. I think that type of business though is this section on skills. So when I think about like, what are your skills? So if you are a techie person and you're into all this stuff, then I would think if you bought that type of company, you're passionate about it as like an industry. I think that almost a requirement. It's not something that like I would get into, because I don't think I could be like, I don't think I'd care enough. And a lot of businesses like that are highly specialized in the service. Like, hey, you're going to these venues, you're setting up all these lights, you're making a good show. Like my skills are like, I'm good at taking something that like works and copying and pasting it like over and over and over again. Like if I one shop and it's like boom, 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 I like stamp them out, right? Like that's what my skill is, and the way that my brain works is then everything's like process and funnel driven. It's like, how do we create consistent experience? And so for me, franchising works really well because that's the whole model. The same with like the turf business. It's like, all right, how do we get a sale? Like how do we systematize the sale process to sell a $10,000 backyard or whatever, and then how do we systematize the sales process, and then how do we multiply people, and then how do we multiply markets? Same concept, just a little bit different flow. And so my problem personally with a business like that is I don't think that is the type of business that you can like stamp out. Like I think it would be much harder because it's so specialty in nature. And but for you, like if that's what you love and you're like, hey, I don't care about stamping it out. I want a really good business that I can like get in every day and I love it and all that. Then I think that'd be awesome for you. Not for me personally. So that's why this thing's so important. I'm going to try to put this together. Let me see if it's out yet to send this link. and that you go through and here we go. Yeah, I got it. So if anybody wants a copy of this like deal box, my assistant just set this up here while we were live. Let me see. Can I put a comment in? All right, there it is. Anyway, so that link goes to hopefully works. If not, let me know. But anyway, so this thing. So just like go back. So before you even like waste time on Biz Buy Sell or looking at anything or talking to brokers, you really have to have like a pretty good idea on specifically what's your box look like. Like what are the businesses that you would look at and you would get super excited about? And what are the ones that you're like, nah, this is stupid. And you just keep scrolling. And then you can set up alerts and stuff based on what you're looking for. So we're looking at budget. We're looking at time invested. We're looking at your skills. We're looking at risk and lifestyle. Those are the 5 things. And so for me, it looks like one of you got on, so it must have worked. Let me look at just like, so if I'm looking at an auto shop, even like, and I've looked at, we obviously like looked at many. I'll just show you how I go about, even for me. So I have my own deal box, right? So for Midas, so here's one, Delaware County. So I operate in Delaware County. They're asking, let me just go through one of these, duplicate, repair shop. Let's see, Delco repair shop. All right, so they're asking $395, 1, 2, 3, oops, $395. I'm just gonna put, I think it's just the business. Gross revenues also $395, and they say cash flow is $129. Okay, and okay, so initial thoughts, right? If I'm like, my initial filter is a 33% net margin on low volume is like, that is not like our net margin's around 15%. So it's to say it's more than double and our volumes are 3 times that. And so that would be the first like red flag here for me is like the cash flow is not accurate, or it's that the owner is not paying themselves out of that number. And I am going to put a manager in place, maybe they're going to make 65K or whatever. And so really this number is most likely going to be much lower, right? It's probably, oh, look, 15%, like kind of what I said. Then we go into, okay, down payment. So let's say I had to put 20% down. I'd probably have to get a 7-year term. I probably could get 7%, maybe 8% on something like this. And so all of a sudden my annual debt payment's 60K. My net like is probably going to be around 5,000 a month. So at its current numbers, or what I believe are the more accurate numbers on this thing, you're basically making no money. Now, the volume is pretty low too. 400 grand's like not a lot of money. But let's keep going into it. So, but I don't care. Like in my business, I'm looking for like a specific model, which is like, does it fit my footprint really well? Is the main thing I'm looking for. It's like I because it's a franchise, I really don't care about like, oh, their customer base, and I don't care how long they've been along. Like my issue is access to real estate. And so if you run like a multi-unit business, like I do, and what I think about is how do I fill in the gaps? Like how do I fill in like, oh, we have a huge gap like right here. Like it'd be great to get a store here, or I just know like, hey, it'd be great to get a store here because it's in between 2 of my stores. Like I would much rather try to fill in gaps than I would say, hey, let me buy some random store up in Scranton. And so for this store, it said it was in media, and let me just put media. Okay, no, that's not it. Okay, media's down here. So that would be the first. I'm like, okay, it's like definitely within my footprint. It would really depend on how close it is to like an existing store, and you don't want to cannibalize yourself. So in our business, we can generally go about 15-minute drive is kind of the like unofficial protected radius. And so if it's like 15 minutes here and 15 minutes there, I'm probably fine. But we would run some analysis to figure out, do we think we're going to like lose customers over it? But generally people don't go that far to get their cars fixed. So it's probably fine. Yeah, they do acknowledge that it's a 33% margin. Owner trained mechanic. It's because the owner is the mechanic is the answer. Okay, yeah. So it's got one full-time employee who is the mechanic. and it's 2 bays. It's got 2 lifts and whatever, $100,000. It's 1,300 square feet. Oh, and he gave us rent, 2,700. So for me, like our minimum's like 5. And so if I was looking at this, I would immediately say, hey, no, this isn't going to work. 2, I can't make it work with 2 bays. If it was 4, if it was like a really good spot, I would consider it. But you know, in this case, it's too small, and it's you know, it's just there's just like not enough money. And so for you, if like you were said, hey, I want to get into automotive, I want to buy an independent shop, I don't care about the franchise thing. Like your challenge with this one is the owner is the technician and the manager. And so if you have no technical skills, this one's going to be pretty hard for you to make any money. Now, if you were an owner, if you were a technician or a manager and you had like the skills, and you know, you could buy this thing and make 120 grand a year. That's cash flow, but you still have to get debt. And so really you're making 70 grand a year. And so then it's this question of how much more revenue can you do to know if it's worth it. So anyway, that's how I would personally, when I go through it. So I think about my deal box. My deal box has to do with size of location, and then how it, location in terms of how does it fit in our market is the first thing I'm looking at. And then second, the location, it's like the actual location. And for us, like we need high retail areas, like on a major road. In my latest thing, I talked about like White Castle. We were right next to a White Castle. That's what I want to see. And most of these aren't. Let's see, a Jiffy Lube in Utah. Thoughts? Yeah, I mean, Jiffy Lubes can do pretty good money. Let's see if we can find one. They can do better margins than what I do on similar volumes. You're oh, the city. Oh, that's why. Let's just search. So you go to filter. So if you want to see anyone, right, you just like throw it in here, Jiffy Lube. If we can't find a Jiffy Lube, we will look for we'll just say lube. We'll just say lube. Oh, whoops. Okay. Window cleaning. Dude, none of these are it. Oh, Pennsylvania. Okay, there we go. Let me just try this Jiffy Lube again. That'd be cool if we could find one. Nope. All right, that's okay. So similar for Jiffy Lube, like a couple things, or any quick lube place, they all have the same exact principles, which are it has to be a really good location. Like your entire business is volume. It's people going in and out and in and out and in and out. And so you would want to make sure that the location itself is on a very high traffic area. So like by me, like I know this one. And so what you'd want to do is go around and find out where all the other ones are. So like this one's, you know, it's a major road. Obviously it's like construction. There's a Wendy's, there's a Chick-fil-A like right over there. There's a ton of traffic in these 2 major intersections. So perfect spot for like a high traffic location. So that is like the first thing you would look at. Now you would hope that it wouldn't be a location if it didn't already get vetted. Like that would be the nice thing potentially about buying an existing one is you would hope that the brand has pretty strict ones like this. For example, again, this is like 202, the King of Prussia Mall. It's like one of the biggest malls in America. It's like literally right here. And so tons of traffic. So that is going to be one of your first indicator of success is do you have a lot of traffic on the nearby? Then the second you're going to be looking at is, you know, the staff and especially in a quick lube business is an extremely process driven business in terms of like, you're going to have high turnover of people. And what you're really looking for are kind of the ability for people to get in and out and in and out. So could look at one of these though. Okay. So another one in Florida asking a lot of money, but that's fine. Let's just like go through. So whoops. All right. Jiffy Lube. Or it's really just a lube, quick lube, not Jiffy Lube. That's okay. Okay, so they're asking $2 million. One of the nice things though, if you can buy the real estate when you buy the business, is there are some pretty good tax incentives for. That's what they say the real estate is worth. When the business and the. Oh, sorry. Let's just get this together. They have cash flow 194. Okay. So if I was a couple things in your sheet that you're going to want to make to do these, I have the multiple off the total asking price, but really it's really the multiple on just the business. And so we really would put it I reverse these, what the business should be. And so in this case, they're saying the business is 934. It nets 21%, which could be, which I wouldn't, I don't have as much of a red flag as like that other one I did. They're asking 2.6. So like kind of reasonable, I'd say on this one. Now where it becomes like, a potential issue is they're saying that the real estate's worth 1.5. And so what we'd want to do is break down, all right, what do we think we can buy? I think if we think this is mainly a real estate purchase, then like we did on that other one, we would potentially negotiate in the contract, like to buy this thing, that maybe we say that the real estate, if possible, is worth 1.8 and only 200K for the business. And that if the bank, I think it has to be like at least 80% or something, is of the value is real estate, then they can categorize it as a real estate loan. And instead of giving like 7 years, you could probably get 20 on it, and you can probably get a lower interest rate. So let's say we had to put 20% down. Let's say we got a 20-year term at a 7% because it's real estate. Our payment would be $12,000 a month, annual $150, and so our net volume on just as it is today would be $45,000, which is 11% ROI. Not the best. Now you are buying the real estate. There's also some other benefit, but the other thing you would want to be take into account here is the question of which I guess this is questions down here. You want rent versus mortgage. So it's possible that when you get the numbers, that this cash flow number includes paying themselves rent. So let's say they're paying themselves, I don't know, $6K a month in rent on the P&L, right? So $72K a year. And what we're saying is that we're kind of assuming this number in additional to the rent. And so if we don't have rent and we just have a mortgage payment, it's possible that you would do an add back to say, hey, I can add back $72,000 a year in rent because we're not going to be paying that. And instead, we're going to be paying this mortgage payment of $12,000, right? And so you'd want to make sure that you're like, when you're going through the numbers, that you're conscientious of that. The reverse is too true. Like it's possible that like, I guess they could be paying more in rent than what the mortgage would be. Probably not though. It's usually the other way. And so now the numbers get better, right? If you said, hey, the cash flow actually gets a lot better. So now the thing's making net positive 100K a year. We're getting a 30% return on the money, going better. We have a better option. Now, pros of a quick lube business are, it is like, every car needs it, except, we can say not 95% of cars, the electrics don't need it, but like 95% of cars on the road need it. That number is going to continue to be strong for a number of years. The average car that we service is 10 years old. And so, even if like 100% of cars went electric tomorrow, there's still millions and millions of cars that have a 10-year horizon before they really affect us. So there's like long runway in this thing. It's like not that big of a deal. The labor is easier to hire because it's more because you're a lot more process driven. versus like in repair, we need highly technical people to fix cars. The people that have quick lubes, like it's really like you have specific people who do specific roles. Like the one guy just undoes the oil filter, one guy just puts it in, and then you have lots of checks and balances to do high volume with people who can be trained in a matter of days how to do it. So it's more similar to a fast food model where it's fairly process driven, making like a Little Caesars pizza or whatever, than it is to a true automotive. Now it depends on the scope though. In this case, if it's just lube, but if they also do, brakes, and they also do fluid exchanges, and they get all these other things, then you will need more technical people. So, car wash. Oh no, I was saying, was it a car wash too? No, they're just saying that's standalone. So I'd work through that. The cons of like a quick lube business are, you are going to have high turnover. You are going to need like really strong processes for training. Like if not, you're going to be buying engines, so your insurance is going to be buying engines. You're going to pay for it on the back end. And it could potentially be like, it is an intensive business that you need to do it. How I'd scale, so to two different ways. One, if I was an independent, I would roll up other independents, and I'd get them branded in my same brand. So whatever, if I called it Brian's Quick Lube, like I would try to buy up other ones, and I would want to keep them under the same brand. It's easier for you to like build reputation and stuff. There's a bunch that do build outs. Like I have a friend who's the franchisor of a brand called Costa Oil. So this is a franchise that does like affordable oil changes, and they have like 100. I don't know how many locations they have. They have a lot, but his model is he goes out and he finds like literally a plot of land on the outskirts of a thing, and he builds a store from zero. Like, so he finds land and builds new stores, and he can build them at a very like affordable price. And so that would be one way I would look to scale it. A lot harder here if you live in a major city, that is very hard to do based just on the cost of real estate and like how much you can make. But, his locations or his franchises are all over the country, and they are in some markets where real estate's a lot cheaper. And, his model is like, we're going to buy real estate cheap. We are going to build them cheap, and we are going to offer low cost oil changes to customers, and we're going to do very high volume. And so I think the big thing in here is just know where you're positioned, if you're going to do that model, or if you're going to be like, hey, I want to be a premium, a premium guy, or like whatever. Do I have any commercial real estate broker use to confirm real estate value on our team? I mean, not in-house, but yeah, we work with a number of different commercial real estate brokers. Many of them follow me here online, and will send me properties. Like, they bring me properties, and then they're the ones that get the commission. We'll work with them directly on that deal. We have some that work for us that are going out and hunting for properties on our behalf, and they'll do it. And at the end of the day, like what I'm buying is pretty similar. Like, I'm buying existing automotive shops that hopefully were like a competitor of ours. And so like, I have a pretty good idea of what I think they should be worth from a dollars per square foot. And at the end of the day, like, do I think the business can do enough revenue to afford the mortgage payment? And that's honestly, like, we've looked at doing some new builds, but it's like $2.5 million for like just like a rough. So here's like, I'll just show you another one. Like, this is kind of how I, whatever, my shops becomes a challenge. So let's say I had to go and I wanted to buy land and build something out. Let me just like, or maybe 200,000. Nope. One of my shops. Okay. This is like the rough number. So let's say I have a store that does, my average store is like 1.4 million. It's probably a little bit higher than that, but let's say we cash flow 200K a store, so like 14% roughly. So if I had to go and do a build out, so I had to go and buy land and build, or I found some like a CVS that I wanted to convert into an automotive shop or like whatever. Like I'd probably have to put 20% down. I'd probably get a 20-year term because we're buying the real estate, and this includes construction and stuff too. It's probably gonna be 7%, maybe 6.8 or something. It's like not gonna vary that month. But like look at it. Like my payment's gonna be 15,000 annual at 183. My net, even making cash flow in quote unquote 200K, my net's 16 grand. Now, granted, I am gonna have, this includes my rent, back to that like whole rent thing. So let's say I didn't have to pay rent, and I pay myself 100K. Let's say I pay myself 100K in rent, whatever. So yeah, maybe I'm at 116K after debt payments. But like, for me to really make this work, and to be worth the time and the effort and all the things, like I mean, the store would just have to make more money, right? It's like this store needs to be, whatever, making 500K in order to make enough that I make it feels worth it. And the challenge for me is like, I just don't know. I don't have like a guarantee, quote unquote, that store is going to make the big money. I know it's going to make at least 200K. So if I can go and buy a shop for 1.5, and this, once again, back like this, you have to add back rent here, so the numbers get better. But like now, an average store, I can make 100 grand a year. I have a 30% return. Like, okay, and it's in my market, and I'm buying real estate. Like, okay, like I'm like I would pay 1.5, right? I try to buy them for like 1.4, 1.3, 1.2, something in that range, but it's much harder these days. Here, I'll just share this sheet. I don't really care on this one. Anyone with the link? Yeah, I'll put the sheet here in the comments. You can play around with it. The main thing to know if you like want to build one of these out is just like build out this thing. If you weren't here earlier, these are just like formulas. So like all I'm doing is let me just pick a different one. What the multiple is. I'm taking the business value. I divide it by the cash flow. Generally we want that number at like 2.5, 3 times if it's like a single store small business. When you get into multi-units, you're gonna pay more. The net margin, I'm just looking at what the cash flow is over the revenue. Having perspective of what you're looking at helps. Most businesses are going to be in the 15%, 20% range. Like, it's pretty rare. This one I added back real estate. That's why that one got high. But like most are going to kind of be in that range. Then down payment is normally going to be 20%. Your term, most small businesses is going to be like 5, probably like a 5-year term on a business. You could probably get 7 to 10 if there's like assets involved. If there's like, but most likely it's going to be 7 with assets, and then it's going to be probably a 20-year with real estate. Maybe there's a case to get a 10, but it all depends on the bank, right? So then payment. So there's this thing called payment. So it's PMT. And like this is going to be your most favorite like formula you use. But basically what it does is takes the your rate, and so like 7% divided by 12, that gets your per month rate. And then what I do, since I count years, so 20 years, then you have to convert that also into months because you're converting this into months. So this is in months and this is in months. And then this is just your loan value. So you take your asking price minus your down payment, and it has to be negative. And so that's all it is. And then there's your annual payment, and then there's your net, and ROI is just your how much money you're going to make versus how much money do you got to put down. So yeah, getting good on Excel is definitely one that you're going to want to do. I have another sheet too. I don't know if I can find it. Multi-unit cash. I have this other sheet that I'll have to. Financial template. Oh, here it is. Financial model template. Is this it? Yeah, this is it. Yeah, so I have this other sheet that I built out and would recommend once you kind of get into one of these things and you want to like really get into it. Like I'm doing the quick version here, but basically start to really build out. So you get the P&L from the through the NDA or whatever. And then you're going through here and be like, all right, what are sales? What's my gross profit, which is, sales minus your cost of goods. If it's a franchise, you want to build in, royalty, advertising, fees, brand fund if they've got that, credit cards, you're probably going to pay 2.5, 3. If you're paying commissions to your guys, so like I break everything out into like my gross profit, my variable expenses, and then operating expenses. And so there could be like manager salary. You always want to add like 12% or more for loaded costs. So like you're going to payroll taxes and health insurance and like whatever. Rent, utilities. I don't know why that's 300. It'd be like 3,000 probably. Any subscriptions, you're going to like software and all this crap you're going to buy. You're going to have insurance, you're going to have supplies. In this case, you might have like a vehicle payment, or you probably not have a vehicle payment unless it was your personal vehicle. And then you're not going to fuel. I think I was mixing two different businesses. And then how much you're going to spend on marketing. And so you go through here and you say, hey, I think, I'm going to have one location that says $500K and it's going to make whatever, 12%. I have this one, whatever, I already did 750, 600,000, boom, boom, boom. You're looking at this, assuming manager makes the same. Maybe the rent's different. Maybe your rent on this place is 4,800. So you'd like, whatever, you'd go in here. And then what I have is this, in this example, I was saying like, whatever, it was like a package of stores I was looking at buying. And then over here is you would put like what the total investment is. And so maybe, I don't know. I'm just going to make up some numbers here, but maybe this thing was like 1.5. So maybe this business you could buy for 1.5 million. And the SBA, if it's a cash flowing business, you should be able to get 10% down, or maybe you seller finance it. We haven't talked about that at all, but like a lot of the deals I've done have been seller financed, and part of it is like how I do this. And then you play with your terms, right? And so you say, all right, I think I can get like a 9%. I think I should be able to get like a 7-year term from my bank. And then you would go and kind of compare the numbers, right? So here now we have a debt payment of 260. And so we think that the business is cash flowing, 380. We have this. So what we're really making here is, 118. And then, you just go back to what are your expectations on the whole thing. You got to put 150 down. I mean, you're making 80% of your money back in the first year, assuming you don't like mess anything up. Not a bad return from like a financial perspective. Now, if this was your job that you were replacing, then if you're currently in corporate America and you make 200 grand a year, like in whatever software sales, and you're like, all right, I'm going to buy this thing, I'm going to make half as much money. You just got to be like aware of that until you drive revenue to say, hey, this thing, this store's a total dog. I'm going to we're going to fix this store. We're going to fix this one because they just like, the managers are bad. We're going to do more marketing, like whatever. You put a place in the plan. Maybe you say, hey, we can get revenue. Our gross margin should be 70% instead of 65. And so you start like tweaking all these things. And then you see what a better case scenario is like, yeah, maybe in year one, instead of 120K, I can get this thing up to 180K. And then, then your plan is simply like, I'm going to start to add more locations. And so anyway, that's how kind of my brain works and how I think through this whole thing is you start with the deal box. If you didn't get the deal box sheet, I put it in the comments if you want to go ahead and grab that. And then this is like super important. And then when you're walking through, have some sort of sheet so you can like quickly do it in your brain and like go through payments, cash flow, and then initially like what do I think the pros and cons, and then how would I grow this thing. Yeah, so cool, guys. I think that's all I got for today. Hopefully you found this helpful, and I'll see you on the next one. We'll have a new video on Sunday. Dropping my, I think it's we just opened the 36th store, and I'm showing all the renovations we did. We spent $200,000 on this thing, and anyway, hope you enjoy it, and I'll see you guys next week. Cheers.